Hi everyone, welcome to Sprague Woodturning. My name is Jim. If you haven't been here before, this is predominantly a turning channel. Each and every week I show people how to make things on the lathe. This week we've got a rescue mission and we're working with some incredible spalted maple. This is truly a beautiful piece of wood and it is a very large bowl as well. Now this was roughed out in 2015, so it is good and dry. But the dry rot in this is really bad. So I thought we haven't done any stabilizing in a while, so I thought we'd use some cactus juice stabilizing resin to save this piece of wood. And if we've got enough thickness at the rim, we might even do an inlay in it. Anyway, that's what we're going to do this week. Let's head over to the bench and get to stabilizing this big, beautiful spalted maple bowl. Well, this week we're going to have to get out the really large vacuum chamber. As you can see, it's got like a 1-inch acrylic top. People are going to wonder where I get this from. I got it off of eBay a very long time ago, and I haven't seen anything like it since, so I don't even know if it's available. There was really no name that I can remember on the side of it. So anyway, it's served me well. The only problem is the lid's getting a little cloudy, and so that's why I kind of stopped using it. But in this case, we're going to need it because our bowl is really large. Now, this bowl is super huge. Matter of fact, let me measure this so you know how big it is. Yeah, 14 inches. And it's been trimmed. I trimmed it years ago thinking that I'd be able to do something with it. And once I looked at it, I wasn't real happy with it, so I decided to just put it on the shelf. And but anyway, we're going to do something with it this week. I've got my marbles that are going to, take up some volume, and I've got 2 of them. I don't know if that's going to be enough. It probably won't be. But what I want to do is just lay a bunch of those marbles down in there. Probably one of these. Put in a garbage bag for this to sit in, and then we'll fill this with the other marbles, and then, well, we'll see where we're at after that. Oh, that is so loud. There, hopefully that's enough marbles to keep that from floating, and I know you guys are having a hard time seeing what's going on. Let me lift you up here. Now I realize that we're not going to have a lot to look at here, but I do have 2 gallons of this stuff, but I just don't want to mix up another gallon unless I absolutely need to. It does have a shelf life, maybe, I don't know, a year, maybe, possibly, something like that. But we got 2 windows here, we'll be able to see what's going on anyway. Alright, so let's get cactus juice and see if I have to actually use the 2nd gallon or not. Right, so this is cactus juice. It's not really cactus juice. It's just stabilizing resin. I did put the activator in it yesterday. I do highly recommend putting your activator in at least 24 hours before you use it. Maybe forced to not do that on the next one if I need it. But the reason for that is it can have, the activator may be kind of chunky, so you definitely want that all to dissolve before you use it. So, looks good to me. Let's pour this in and, I don't know, see where we're at. I'll put my apron on because this could get messy. Yeah. Oh well. Thought I might be able to get away with just 1. It's definitely going to need 2 though. Anyway, I'll be right back after that's mixed up. I'm going to hold on to these jugs because I'll be able to put the excess back into here. This stuff doesn't cure unless it's cooked in an oven, so it will stay in its liquid form like that, I don't know, indefinitely. But as soon as you throw it in the oven for a couple hours at 200 Fahrenheit, then it cures. Anyway, I'll be right back. I think I'll throw another cable tie around this. All right, well, hopefully this does it, because I don't got any more. Well, it's right at the very top. If you guys weren't here, I would close this completely up. That's what I would do. But, you know, it's still going to bubble out a lot. I did clean the chamber out before this, so I'll be able to recover this stuff. It's not really that big of a deal. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to go with this for now, I guess. Let's try it, and we may have to come up with another solution. Well, okay. Let's see how we make out here. One of the reasons why I stopped using this is because I was having a hard time sealing it along the edge here, so that could be an issue too. So I'm just going to quickly jump in here while you're watching this. You know, so usually a lot of the pieces that I've stabilized in the past, I would pull a vacuum on them for, you know, possibly 8 hours. I don't leave the pump running that whole time. But in this case, this piece had so much, you know, it was so punky and had so much dry rot in it that it literally just absorbed a lot of the stabilizing resin right away. And there was no need for me to pull a vacuum for, you know, that length of time. Well, that's full vacuum. Surprising there isn't a whole lot more splashing and violent stuff happening in there, but there is tons of air still moving out of it. I know that you guys are probably having a really hard time seeing through the glare. Let me turn the shop lights off, that might help. So when I originally bought this vacuum chamber, it did have a seal that was glued on, and literally the first time I used it, it fell off. So what I did was take some of that orange RTV silicone, put it all around the top of the vacuum chamber, put a piece of plastic on it, and then set the lid down, and it's made a great seal from there on. Yeah, if this was like a really solid piece of wood that just had some, you know, punky spots in it, then that may be a lot longer to fill. But yeah, I'm just going to keep doing this for probably another half hour or so, and then I'll bring you back for what I think I'll do for the next step, and we'll leave this overnight. All right, that's been about an hour, so let's release the vacuum, and then we'll do the next step here. Now, I originally thought about flipping this over, but I think all I'm going to do is pull these two pieces tight like I did here, and that will pull everything closer. And, you know, if it isn't fully submerged on the top, then, you know, whatever, we'll call that a loss. We'll trim that off. But I think that that's going to do the majority of the bowl for sure. But anyway, let's do that and see what we're looking at. Well, there, it's all submerged. I know you really can't see it, but I can. You know, ideally, I have about at least an inch of the stabilizing stabilizing resin on the top of this. That way you can pull from it, because this will definitely weep into the wood overnight. And tomorrow we'll throw it in the oven and see what we're looking at. By the way, we'll see you tomorrow. Well, it is let me see, 23 hours after I shut this off, and you know what, I'm pretty happy. It's, for the most part, you know, it's down maybe half inch, 3/4 of an inch. To be honest with you, I thought it would be a lot lower than that, so you know what, I'm happy with that. So I think the best way to get this out of here is I'll just cut all these cable ties off, and we'll just flip it all up inside of here, and then yeah, it's going to be messy. It always is. Well, let me get my apron on. So after giving it some thought, you know, watching this footage, I think maybe a better idea would be to take the bowl, put it inside the garbage bag, maybe even double the garbage bag, set it inside the vacuum chamber, fill the inside of the bowl with marbles, but on the outside of the bag, and then fill the bag, and I think there'd be more volume for it to pull from. Oh yeah, wow, is this ever heavy now? You know, I meant to weigh this before we started and completely forgot. Oh, this is, yeah, twice its weight, I would say. You know, there's a white spot there. I want this to drip dry for a little bit here before we throw it in the toaster oven. I don't have my racks here. Ordinarily I would have a rack, but in the temporary shop here, just don't have it. Hold on. See if I can come up with something here. Anyway, I can't seem to find anything. I'll just hold it here for a little bit. Exciting stuff, right? Anyway, I'll bring you back when we're ready to cook this piece and set this resin. All right, this is barely, and I do mean barely, gonna fit. That should be good enough. Right, so to cook cactus juice, it's 2 to 3 hours at 200 Fahrenheit. We're outside here, so I'm going to bump that up to, say, I don't know, 220 or so, and I think that hopefully that will be all right. My timer will only go 60 minutes at a time, so I'll come out and do this 2 or 3 times, and then it'll be done. This is going to smoke really, really bad, and I will bring you back once we're rolling coal here. Well, yeah, there you go. We're rolling coal, that's for sure. This is only 10 minutes into it. So yeah, I'll keep a close eye on it. The upper part is actually close to the elements, and I'm a little worried about it scorching it. It's probably not that big of a deal because we're gonna turn it away anyway, but whew, yeah. Anyway, I'll bring you back after the first hour and we'll have a look at it. All right, well, we're coming up on the first hour. Yeah, she's smoking pretty bad. Whew. Still going strong. I'm not going to bother opening this, but you can tell when you look inside, you can see dry areas starting to form on the bowl. The tray is actually full of stabilizing resin. So yeah, dripping a little bit on the pavement here. Don't tell my brother-in-law. But anyway, as soon as this dings, I'll put it on for another hour, and I'll bring you back after that, and we'll make a call and see if we want to go any further. I probably will, at least another half hour, because that is a lot of stabilizing resin. I want to make sure that it's fully cured before we do anything else. Anyway, I'll bring you back here in an hour or so. Well, all right, I just took this out. It's been 2.5 hours. I guess that was really close to that element. But yeah, look at the amount of stabilizing resin that's weeped out of this. It's still smoking. I don't know if we're ready for it to be done yet, but I don't know. It looks pretty good. Maybe I'll throw it in for, I don't know, another 20 minutes or so. I'm hoping that we've got enough thickness I can turn this away and it's not going to be a thing. So I'm going to put it back in the same spot, and hopefully hopefully it works out. Yeah, there's more of it there. Anyway, I'll bring it back after that. Right, so that just shut off. That's 3 hours now. It is still smoking a bit, but I can't help but think that maybe it's the maple that's actually burning. It doesn't smell so much like the resin anymore, and it smells more like maple. So let's get that out and have a look at it. And anyway, that's going to be it. I'm not going to be cooking anymore. Let's see how we did though. Yeah, there's that burn spot. Well, you know, I think that that's not going to be an issue. There's enough material there, we'll be able to turn that away. And Sounds good and solid. All right, that's going to be it for today. We'll get this mounted on the lathe tomorrow, trimmed up, and fix any of these cracks that are remaining. Maybe we'll do an inlay in them. I'm not sure. Haven't figured that out yet. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. Should also show this. This is how much stabilizing resin that we used. If I had to guess, probably 2/3 of a liter is what we use to stabilize that big bowl. Just going to use the Kutzall grinder here to grind back the bottom of this and clean it up before we put our glue block on the bottom. And so I just stick it on there and move it back and forth. And you know, if you still get movement, you need to flatten it a little more. You can try and use a belt sander to do this. I've just found that it's easier to use the grinder to do it, to be perfectly honest with you. And there's your hot melt glue. Just eyeball it. Since you got lots of thickness, it really shouldn't be an issue. Majority of the work on this bowl is going to be done with the 5/8 bowl gouge from David Ellsworth. So we're going to initially trim this up, and you know, there's some cracks to repair. Again, I talked about maybe doing an inlay in the rim, so we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But you know, right now we need to trim this up and see what we're looking at, and actually see if it is solid enough that we can proceed with this. I have stabilized a number of pieces, and to be perfectly honest with you, this was probably the worst piece that I've ever stabilized as far as how bad it was. So very, very interesting to see the results on this, but it did dull the gouge quite a bit. I think all in all, I probably sharpened 4 or 5 times, maybe even more than that, when I was doing this piece. You'll see me trying a variety of different cuts, just trying to see what's working the best. It was quite a battle to even, you know, I did try the Hercules, and there's going to be some people wondering if I use any of the carbide tools here. But, you know, I just wasn't really happy with the cut that I was getting with it, so that's why I went back to the gouge. And, yeah, I mean, I might have even sharpened more than that. I was a little surprised because it's been a while since I worked with stabilizing resin, especially cactus juice, and I don't remember it dulling the tools as bad as it did. But if you look out near the top part of the bowl, there's not really any shavings coming off. The shavings are only coming off the bottom part of the bowl, but up near the top, it's pretty much nothing but powder. All right, so we've got some issues here. This is a really deep crack. If you remember, you know, 3/4 of this at the top here, I wouldn't say is in the stabilized category. And you can see by how there's tear out here, and there isn't kind of down below it. Like here, the tear out is, there's none. But up near the top here, there's certainly more and more. So, you know, this is a huge bowl. I don't know, I'll cut this down at least halfway, and then we'll have a look at it, because like I said, I don't know if this is fully stabilized. Matter of fact, I'm sure that it's not, even though it does appear to be pretty hard. I don't know, I'll probably just square up the rim and then take the inside out, and then we'll make a call on it from there. It's an amazing piece of wood though, I'll tell you that right now. You will not come across something like this very often. Now I still have to trim the inside here yet, but you know, I was thinking that we'd do an inlay in the rim, but you know, after looking at this, I mean, look how great this is. How could you interrupt that with a groove and put an inlay in there? So, you know, I don't think we're going to do that. And as far as this crack is concerned, I mean, I might change my mind after I get it kind of trimmed up here, but I think all I'll do with that is just use the black Starbond to fill it and any other little smaller cracks that may be present. I just, you know, this here is just such a fantastic look that I just can't justify doing an inlay in it. I think that it would really ruin the piece. So anyway, I'll trim this up and then we'll see how much correcting of material that I'll need to do. So that saying less is more, I think that really applies here. This is just such a beautiful example of spalted maple that, you know, you just would be doing this piece an injustice to break up that rim and you know, interfere with that awesome spalted maple look. So I was checking on thickness there because I didn't want to get too thin. If I had to do this over again, I think what I would do is rotate this piece halfway through the cooking process. And then that way that scorched area wouldn't have been so deep. Yeah, there's sharpened again. If this bowl was a lot smaller, this would be a non-issue at all. But I had to turn the dust collector on because I just could not keep dust off the camera. I cut out a lot of footage where I'm blowing off the camera. I even at one point moved the camera way back and zoomed in. It was still being covered in this heavy epoxy maple dust. Pretty nasty stuff. Finally able to bump the speed up to 1,000. You know, I don't think I'd go much higher than that on the bowl this size. For its weight or for its size, it is probably a very heavy piece of wood compared to a bowl that's this size that isn't stabilized. And for what it's worth, you know, the guy that owns this company, I think he's down in Texas. Last time I checked, he was in Texas. I did talk to him years ago, and you know, I was concerned about the food safe thing, and he said, yeah, it's not certified food safe, but for what it's worth, you know, I have cereal out of a stabilized bowl every morning. When I was talking to him on the phone a long time ago, I can't even remember how long ago it was. Anyway, Cactus Juice Stabilizing Resin. It's a fantastic product, not sponsored. Use it if you got some really punky, rotten pieces. That works great. All right, well, things trimmed up nicer than I thought they would. I was a little skeptical when I first took a few passes on the inside, but it seems to have sorted itself out. We're getting a little thin down on this area here, but you know, it's still good. I got to whittle this down a little bit. There's a bit of a hump here, but big thing that we need to take care of is this big crack that we got right here. And I guess there's another smaller one there. And on the back where it was burnt, I mean, yeah, it's still a little dark. We're going to do some trimming yet. Hopefully we'll delete that completely. But, you know, some small little cracks here. So, you know, my intention was not to do an epoxy coat on this, but I think that it will definitely benefit from it. So we'll do that. But first thing we're going to do is fill all these cracks with black medium from Starbond. And then, of course, we'll use the accelerator to set it. I think what I'll do is try and push this down into there. These bottles are really stiff. You've heard me say it here a number of times that it's pretty hard to be a wood turner as far as I'm concerned unless you've got some sort of a CA glue in your inventory. So definitely encourage people to have it on hand to deal with things like this. I do have an announcement about Starbond that will probably be next week or the week after. But yeah, you definitely should have some sort of CA glue on hand to deal with these issues. And if you don't, I mean, I would have to trim away a lot of this bowl to delete that big crack. There, I will give that a good solid 15 minutes or so. Finish hardening up. And then we'll trim it up and sand it. Now, I did have some concerns about the CA glue going in and staining this piece, even though it is stabilized. Luckily, that is a non-issue, and I know that I've covered this in the past, but typically tooled finishes will not absorb CA glue like sanded finish or sanded surfaces. So if I had to sanded this to say 180 and then used the CA glue, then there probably would have been deep staining in this, even though it's stabilized. So let's keep that in the back of your mind when you're about to do this. But it was risky, and after I started rubbing it around with my finger, I'm like, I wonder how deeply this is going to stain. But luckily, it's a non-issue. I will say that, you know, your last pass here, your gouge has got to be super sharp, even though, yeah, it wasn't still fully cured. Even though we use the stabilizing resin and of course the CA glue, there are areas in this that are missing. Like when you look at the end grain, it's going to be missing pieces just because of purely how rotten it was. So the finish, while you'll see it at the end here, is really super shiny and it looks great. You can tell that, you know, there's little areas that are missing, and that's just when you're working with a piece of wood like this, that's exactly what you're going to get. It's pretty hard to avoid that. But shear scraping on the outside seemed to be the best way to cut back any of that stuff. And again, I was just kind of trying to knock down that one little spot that was really bothering me. And in the end, I mean, there you go. That surface is ready for sandpaper. And just what an amazing transformation from what it was before and how rotten it was before. And you can see that I do have a foot on this. I do like a elevated piece. I don't like forms that typically look heavy and squat when sitting on a table. So since I usually have a tenon on the bottom of my pieces to rough them out, I will typically leave that tenon in place and turn it into a foot. Even though this is kind of not in the 1/3 rule as far as foot size compared to diameter size is concerned. Going to do another filling here, and I had to do another filling on the other side as well, but I just used clear CA glue there. And yet again, trimming again. For what it's worth, having the gouge on its side like it is here seemed to be the best way to cut that without ripping out a bunch of end grain. So ordinarily I would turn the flutes of the gouge up as I'm going in, but there's a big difference there. So give her another thumbs up, and then we'll soon be able to move on to sanding. And speaking of that, we're going to use the 3.5-inch double disc from sandpaper.ca. Started sanding at 60 and went all the way to 320 on the inside and outside of this piece. I did have a piece of wood come off and stick in my arm. I was like, how is that even possible? But anyway, it must have been just the way, it must have been just kind of hanging there, and then when the sandpaper hit it, threw it off, and it stuck me, it got me. This is 3 ounces of the Pro Series. It's 2-to-1, so that makes it nice and thin, and it should flow into any areas that we need to still harden up a bit. So as you watch me apply this Pro Series with a silicone barbecue brush, I'll give you a quick little update on the workshop. We've had some pretty nasty weather. Yesterday we got 8 inches of snow. If it isn't snowing, it's raining, and some days it's raining and it's snowing. So progress on the outside as far as getting the siding done and all of the flashing on the fascia and all that is certainly ground to a halt. But hoping that by midweek next week, everything will be all done outside and she will be weather tight. Well, check that out. You don't see that every day. Crazy spalting. It's busy, and I like it. There's our repaired area right here. Almost pretty much a non-existent thing now. So many black lines in this that it just kind of disappears. And on the inside, virtually nothing. Wow, this is just a gigantic bowl too. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think. Crazy spalted maple. Hard to find pieces this large and this spalted that, well, I mean, usually they're rotten like this one was, and then it, you know, it costs you a lot to stabilize them. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think. The Pro Series on here are pretty heavy, so may have to tool this back tomorrow, but ideally I just want to sand it, but we'll have to see. I mean, I keep putting it on here and it keeps drying out and drying out, so it's still absorbing lots of that epoxy. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow for the first coat of Waterlux. Let me know what you think. All right, well, it's the next day. It's pretty heavy down here. Man, might have to start sanding this at 60. I really don't want to tool it anymore, but I'll probably go right back to 60 grit and cut it back. Kind of an interesting thing. If you look here, you'll see sections of wood that are kind of pristine. Once I turn this a bit, so, see little islands that have been sealed off from competing fungi. There's another one there, and it's shiny, and the rest of it's all matte. It's a pretty cool effect. And the same thing here. You get down to this good wood, and it's been sealed off by the fungi that are in there. That's what spalting is. It's present in all trees, and I mean it helps. It's nature breaking down the wood. But I just thought it was really cool. Same thing here. Like you can see the epoxy sitting on the surface, but all around it, it's not. It's pretty neat. Anyway, yeah, I think I'll just start grinding this back at 60, and we'll see how it goes. If it's too big of a chore, might have to tool it, but really don't want to. Back again with the 3.5-inch stipple disc from sandpaper.ca. And yeah, I probably could have started at 120, but you know, I just didn't want to fool around with it. So I went back to 60, and then of course it was sanded to 320 because I just don't see the need to go any higher than that. Not on a piece like this. All right, we're not going to bother with the sealer coat with this because of all the epoxy that's already embedded in it. So this is your first coat of Waterlux Gloss Original. Still getting some questions about what I'm using to store my finish in so it stays fresh, and they're called Stop Loss bags. They work fantastic and I highly recommend them, and I'm just using lint-free cotton to apply the finishes. Well, let's start with the back side. Crazy. Check that out. And as far as the burning is concerned, just a little bit there. The only reason you know that it's from that is because you've watched this video. This is some of the most busiest spalted maple I've ever worked with, and actually some of the nicest I've ever worked with for sure. Wild. And it's huge. So big. I've got the camera panned all the way out and I'm a good solid 4 feet from the camera. Just an amazing piece of wood. All right, we'll see you tomorrow for the second coat. 2 might do it. Still looks shiny all around, so hopefully so. Anyway, we'll see you then. Well, here we are the next day. Lots of dry spots showing. So yeah, we'll see how the second coat covers, but it's looking like we're gonna need 3 coats. Maybe we should have used the sealer coat. The back side is better than the inside, that's for sure. But anyway, let's see what it looks like after a second coat of Waterlux. After I turn the power on. Back again this week with the Triple E buffing compound from the Beal buffing system. And again, I get all my buffs and my Triple E as in the city of Tripoli, from Lee Valley here in Canada. Lee Valley is an awesome store, and well, they only sell proven products. And last thing we're going to do is clean this up with some denatured alcohol so we don't have any adhesion issues with the finish. All right, here's your second coat of Waterlux Gloss Original. I keep getting asked why I like shiny finishes, and you know what I tell people is, if you go to a craft show and half of your bowls sitting on the table are shiny like this and the other half are dull, at the end of the show you're going to be taking home all the dull ones, because all the shiny ones will sell. They're a pain to do, but they sell. There you go. What do you think of that? 2 coats. Looks like it's covered quite nicely. Wild looking spalting. Beautiful bowl. Anyway, if there is a third coat, I will do it the same as the second one. Other than that, we'll see you when we're doing the bottom. So after 2 coats are finished, we are ready to part this free from the waste block. So typically what I will do is use the gouge to get rid of any of the hot melt glue. And then I'll take the parting tool and essentially keep the glue joint in the middle of the cut itself. That's kind of really the only stressful point. I've had very few come off at this point, but when they do, it is disappointing. And then when that's done, we'll throw this on the vacuum chuck and finish up the bottom. And the bottom was sanded from 180 to 320 after it was tooled here with the gouge. All right, well, that's going to do it for the video. I really do appreciate everybody that's watched it all the way through. Special shout out to the members. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. Let's have a last little chat about this beautiful bowl. I absolutely love it. Well, what do you think about this huge bowl? I mean, look at that spalting. Come on. What a spectacular piece of wood. Some people were complaining about the ring light, so I'll go back to my previous light setup and I'll use a ring light for other stuff. There is the very bottom, and as per normal, run out of time. That's why there's no finish on it. Size on this is 13¼ inches across, and what have I got here? 5.5 inches tall, and it's my typical 1/2 inch in thickness. Really a spectacular piece of wood. Please let me know what you think about this. The rotating footage at the end should be really nice. Yeah, just absolutely crazy. I'll set this down. Now that piece is for sale. If you're interested, send me an email to spraguewoodturning@gmail.com. You know, I'm kind of struggling to put a price tag on it because it's such a unique piece of wood. I think that, you know, it's going to demand a higher price than a lot of the resin pieces that I've done. So, but anyway, if you're interested, send me an email, and hopefully I'll have the price figured out by then. You can even send me a quote. We can even try it that way. And anyway, I just don't really know how to assign a value to it. There is a slight texture, and as you can imagine, the fact that the cactus juice has hardened up all that end grain has done just an absolutely spectacular job. But you know, it can't do everything. And that's why even after using the cactus juice, that we still need it to also use the epoxy coat afterwards in order to harden things up even further. But you know, it's a beautiful bowl. I absolutely love it. Unfortunately, because of the cactus juice, you can't classify this as being a food safe product, even though, you know, it's got the Waterlux over top of it. It's considered non-toxic after it's fully cured. The only issue is, you know, I don't know if I was going to buy a bowl with such a high price tag on it, would I use it for food? Probably not. So, you know, That is an absolutely beautiful centerpiece for a really large table in a room. You know, not even necessarily say a kitchen table or a dining room table. It demands a place to be presented. You know, and I think it's just a beautiful piece of wood. Anyway, that's it for that. One thing about sandpaper.ca, give me a second. Actually, I don't have the paperwork with me, but they're going to be shutting down for about 2 weeks. They're going on a holiday overseas, and anyway, there's nobody there to run the business. So if you put an order in through sandpaper.ca, you're not going to get it for a while. You can still order, pre-order, and when they get back from holidays, they will fill those orders. Keep in mind, this is a mom and pop organization, you know, sandpaper.ca is, so you know, they're not some big huge company, so you know, we all got to go on holidays at some point. Don't forget to put designer epoxy in the comments down below to be entered into the next giveaway at 145,000 when we get there, and of course that's only for continental USA and Canada. And but of course, by commenting down below, you'll be entered into my giveaway, and I ship worldwide, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Please leave a comment down below. Last thing that I want to talk about is, you know, how important that thumbs up is on my videos. So if you enjoyed this content, please give it a thumbs up. And hey, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. After all, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. I think that a lot of people also forget about the bell notification. That's another massive thing that will affect, you know, kind of views on a video. So don't forget your bell notification. You can click on your little bell and you can, you know, it'll give you options as to what you want to see. You know, I usually select all, and then that way whenever I upload a video, you'll be notified. So don't forget about your bell notification. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. Next week is going to be, it's going to be another branch themed project, and I must say that it looks pretty awesome. I really like the way it looks, so please come on back for that next week. All right, have yourselves a fantastic weekend, and hopefully we'll see you here next week. Take care.